Hi there, Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to be talking about the gate 62, which is all about details. Okay, so we've got the sun in gate 62, which comes off the top of the throat right here. And we've got and that started the morning of July 13th, and it goes until July 19th in the morning. And then we've got the earth in the gate 61, which is called the thinker, and it's up here. Coming off the bottom of the head center. And so all week we're going to have the activations within and the definition within the head and the ajna, as well as last week's and what will continue for a while, the sacral and the root center. So that sacral and root are still connected by the 360, which is the gate of evolution, sometimes called mutation. And then we've got the 6124, which is connected by the channel of awareness. And that defines the head and the ajna. So everybody's going to have four centers defined this week, whether you have those usually defined or not. And so some people will seem more certain of things than other times. Some people will have lots of ideas. Some people will have lots of be wanting to give a lot of inspiration, things like that. And then again, those people who don't usually have the sacral will have that sacral defined and feel like it. And then those that don't have the root defined, they'll feel like they've got the root defined, a little more stable, a little more steady, perhaps. So we've got the sun in gate 62 this week. It's the gate of details. It's also called the preponderance of the small in the original I Ching or details. It's the caution, patience, and detail which produce excellence out of limitation. So basically, the smaller the details get, the more excellence derives from that because we're paying attention to the details. And it does take caution, it does take patience, and it takes kind of a liking working with details to get it right. In fact, you probably know a lot of people who get bored or frustrated or just can't stand working with the details. Those are not detail people. People who like working with the details usually have the gate of details, the gate 62, or perhaps the other half of that channel, which is the 17. And so they'll be more prone to liking dealing with the details. Some people do, some people don't. This is one of those things in human design where it's either you do or you don't. It's really nothing much in between. In the incarnation crosses this week, we got the cross of the Maya, detail and obscuration. And in quantum human design, it's called preparation. And in the gate 61, we've got the thinker. This is the one that asks the question, why? This is the child or the adult who's always asking the question, why, right? It's literally the thinker. That famous statue by Rodin. It's the inner truth or mystery in the original I Ching. It's the awareness of universal underlying principles. So it's asking the question why and then getting the answers, figuring out, getting that awareness of what's really driving, why do we do this? Why do we do that? How does this happen? What's going on here? How can that be? All those questions are from the gate 61, the thinker. And in the Gene Keys, psychosis is the shadow. Unfortunately, it is one of the gates of madness. Inspiration is the gift, and sanctity is the CD. In quantum human design, we call it wonder. So when we look at the Gene Key 62, we've got the shadow is intellect, which is interesting. I'll explain that in a second. The gift is precision, and the CD is impeccability. So what Richard is trying to explain here, at least in the Gene Keys, is that this intelligence, the intelligence that we think of as internal kind of intelligence is of the heart, whereas intellect is of the mind. And so a lot of people work with the mind, think with the mind, obviously, and use the answers that they get from their mind, but that's their intellect. And so he's saying that the shadow is actually the intellect because that's not where we should be making our decisions from. And so, anybody who's been around human design for a while knows that your strategy is where you want to make your decisions and your authority and not your mind, right? So while the 62 is actually coming off the throat, it's still about the intellect. And so he's saying that the intellect is not really where we want to make our decisions. Just, for example, working with the details of something and then making a decision from the mind with regard to those details won't always get us where we want to be. We talk about emotional intelligence, for example. Emotional intelligence is more of body, of the intuition, of the heart, of the strategy, whereas the intellect is not. Intellect is always of the mind. He also says precision is inspirational and original, and that's the gift. The gift of precision is inspirational and original, and such an inspiration does not depend on your vocabulary. So this precision doesn't necessarily come from that shadow of intellect, right? You can be, and Richard also says, and you can review him about this, but he also says that the intellect is actually the polar opposite of the intelligence. This heart or intuition or bodily intelligence that we have to get things done, to move things along, to do what it is we really want to do is completely counter to intellect and the stuff in our minds and the stuff that we try to, balance out with the pros and the cons. Any of that intellect where you're using your mind alone and not using the body and the strategy and authority that we come with, it's not going to work out. So, and that's why he's saying that precision, the gift of precision is inspirational and original. So it's finding in the details stuff that is inspirational and original. And people do that. It happens. I've seen it happen. I know it happens. It's happened for me. And such inspiration doesn't depend on your vocabulary. So you don't necessarily have to have a great vocabulary to be able to explain the details. In fact, the more you can explain the details in words that are common and appropriate and appreciated by other people in a way that doesn't necessarily come from the intellect that you may or may not have, the better off you'll be. When it's more easily explained, people love that. And in the graphic, which got cut off a little bit, there's a deeper beauty to our moons because it's part of our authenticity. And this is the that infamous, bowl or jar or whatever you want to think of it, that's put back together by the Japanese saying, where you can fill in the cracks with the gold, right? It's the cracks in our it's our woundedness is allows for the deeper beauty because it's part of our authenticity, is what he's saying. So those cracks get filled in with gold, and then we get to be even more authentic because we've got the cracks. And hopefully people will appreciate us and love us for the cracks as much as they will for the rest of the function that we've got going on here. There are a number of birthdays this week, including the new Queen of England, Ariana Huffington, Conor McGregor, who's a martial arts fighter, few actors and actresses, Diane Carroll, Linda Ronstadt, Patrick Stewart, and then Gerald Ford and Harrison Ford, who I think just turned 80, or perhaps he's going to be 81 now, and just finished his last Indiana Jones movie, believe it or not. There's somebody who's into the details, right? And probably always asking the question why as well. And I saw him on an interview recently. He said he's quite happy to be done with the Indiana Jones series. He was happy to have finished it and to have a sense of completion about it. As he as he said, he was getting to the end of his, and he hesitated. I thought he was going to say life, but he said career. So wishing them all a happy birthday this week. And I hope you have a wonderful week. See what details you get into. It might be interesting to see what shows up, what doesn't show up, what details might need a little tweaking, might need a little, perhaps not so much in the weeds as taking more of a 30,000 foot view of them so that you can can actually create the precision and impeccability that comes with seeing details at a much broader perspective, from a much broader perspective. Hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon. Take care.